Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis, and today we're going to be talking about the big event which is going to be taking place later today, which is of course the FOMC meeting. Now, we have been paying attention to this date for a while. We have been anticipating it, waiting for it patiently, and now it is officially today. A lot of people have been making their predictions over on Twitter, and I've seen it many times in the past. Everybody really kind of under-predicts or over-predicts what's going to happen. So far, the biggest thing has always been the Fed pivoting, which we will get to here in a second. But first, I do want to address that we also have another FOMC meeting, and this is going to be the bigger one. This is going to be in December. The last one that we've had that had the summary of economic projections was September. And if you guys have been watching the channel for a little bit of time and watching the videos, we have been watching these dates closely because these are the big ones. But the other FOMC meetings that don't include the summary of economic projections also do matter greatly, and they could affect the trajectory of this entire market greatly. So with all of that in mind, let's move forward and let's talk about a few things. So first off, shout out to Crypto God John. We do see if you don't have much experience trading, I suggest staying flat until after FOMC and things settle down. Expecting Darth Maul candles in both directions. Very easy to lose money. Stay safe. And yes, as we really kind of look at the last few FOMC meetings, now of course this is on the 3-day span. Let's go to the daily span. Now I also do on XRP, by the way, I have my buy zone down here at about 38 cents down to about 33 cents. A lot of people will say there's no way that's going back down there, but hey, if we break down here, as everything is kind of tightening here, if we break down from here, say for tomorrow is, or I should say today, is a big nothing announcement with the BPS. It might be 75 BPS. We don't know. Then I'm expecting possibly a breakdown. But it could go either way tomorrow. We could have a pump out of this channel. We could have, we could go and visit 60 cents for an example, which I did break down in yesterday's video. But I do want to address real quick why these dates matter. So September 20th to the 21st was the last big event. And if you do look here, so here's the 20th and the 21st. It allowed the market to have a little bit of a nice run. Now, this is, of course, with XRP. Here's the 21st. Here's the 22nd. And you could see that on the 21st is usually the 21st would have been the day that we had the actual FOMC meeting. It is a 2-day event. So for example, November 2nd is when we actually get a lot of the information. So the 21st was the big day during this time. And that day was pretty flat, but you also see that there was quite a bit of volatility. I mean, you got to remember that from the bottom of this candle to the top of this candle, this was about a 14% increase. So it probably spiked up and then it came right back down, tested, and kind of settled within the middle channel on that candle. So these dates are usually volatile for the entire market and for even stocks. We are definitely waiting to see what happens. I haven't taken any heavy positions as of recent. A lot of my positions were taken back in September, and they are very well in profit. So I'm waiting to see what happens next to see if I could average in on some nice lows. Recently, there has been a lot of talks about QNT. I will definitely be addressing that in a later video today and talking about where we could go on QNT. But just prepare for what could happen and what can't happen. For example, these are the big scenarios, and shout out to Tree of Alpha over on Twitter for this, but we do see fairly straightforward FOMC meeting tomorrow, or today if you will. Max long 50 BPS, max short 100 BPS, and sleep on 75 BPS, which means it's going to be 75 BPS, nothing burger as usual. Now, of course, a lot of people are looking at a few things around this. For example, we do see down here from TED Talks Macro, perps loading shorts today, lots of equal highs above in stock or in stonk indexes. Something tells me it's a 75 BPS hike, shorts unwind, and then we have a hawkish yet tame press conference that translates into further unwinding of hedges. So again, we are viewing this in a few ways of how things could go. A lot of people are waiting for the Fed to pivot. I mean, that's been the big news. Everybody has been waiting for the Fed to pivot for a while. And if you guys did miss the announcement from yesterday, we did see President Biden endorses the Federal Reserve's policy pivot. Again, when we look at what the Fed will do, at some point in time, I believe we will have the Fed fully pivot. It's the question on when. So we don't know when that's going to happen. A lot of people have been asking for it, or I shouldn't say asking for it, but predicting it and saying that's going to happen, today. But I don't believe that we are going to get what we ask for. For an example, over here we do see bonds rally with Powell's favored curve poised for inversion. Fed's preferred yield curve measure close to recession signal. Policy rates entering restrictive levels. OCBC's showing says, and I hope that I'm saying that last name right. I'm probably not, but. Yeah, nonetheless, I mean, like when we look at a few things down here, so the yield on the 10-year treasuries fell as much as 12 basis points to 3.93% compared to peak of 4.34% last month, the highest since 2007. And if you guys haven't been watching the 10-year yield, I highly suggest to do so. The 10-year has been one of the biggest ones next to the US dollar in terms of what the entire market does. And it goes all the way back to even like you could look at March of 2020 on the 10-year and kind of compare it to what crypto has done, and it is a great indicator. Same with the US dollar. But here is the Jerome Powell's preferred yield curve is close to inverting, and you guys do see it down here. We've seen it invert in the past, and you can kind of see the comparisons here. This goes all the way back to 2000, 2004, 2005 to 2009. A little bit of a 2020 time frame, and then here we are now currently. So everyone is waiting. Everyone is watching closely, and we even do see over here, these were literally 8 minutes apart. This is also why I say do not pay. Like, the media is the worst to follow during times like these. We do see over here from CNBC, charts suggest the market has more upside through the end of the year, Jim Cramer says. And this is 8 minutes apart, these two tweets. And, or I shouldn't say tweets, but articles. And we do see hold your nose and sell to brace for a possible market downturn, Jim Cramer says. This is very similar to those large accounts over on Twitter that tell you, hey, I think things are going to go up, and then all of a sudden they tweet after saying, I think things are going to go down, and then they delete their tweet when they are wrong and say that they were right the entire time. They just don't know what's going to happen. And I really do think that a lot of people don't really know what's going to happen. All we can do is go off of patterns. And over here, if we look at this tweet, we do see on every single FOMC rate hike so far this year, markets have dumped at 2 p.m. EST when the rate hike came out and rallied at 2:30 EST when Powell spoke. And here you guys have the July FOMC. Again, very volatile dates. And you could also see over here, June FOMC, massive crash, followed by a huge inverse. May FOMC, again, crash, inverse. March, again, they always happen at the exact same time. And we do see over here the exact same time happened on the last FOMC. Markets dumped exactly at 2 EST, and markets pumped and made a new high after 2:30 EST. Only difference was the rally sold off around 3 instead of continuing around the other 4 FOMCs. And again, here you guys have that sell-off in September. Now, again, I am watching this closely because this will gauge on what's going to happen around XRP, around this entire market. You guys know me, I love to buy the blood. Even going over here to the US dollar, everybody has been calling for new lows on the US dollar, saying that it's finally topped out. I really think that the funny thing about the US dollar and everybody trying to say, okay, yeah, I think it topped, is the fact that they don't understand that the dollar for, I would say, the last couple days, weeks, and even possibly months now, everyone has been saying every single time that we drop down a little bit, okay, this is it, the US dollar topped out. I remember going all the way back to May, everyone said, okay, the dollar topped out here. It was down about 4%. During this time, everybody was expecting a massive rally. They said that this, and let me actually go to the drawing board here. They said that this was going to be the point where we pump back to new all-time highs. And look at what ended up happening after. Again, during this time here, they said, okay, the US dollar topped out. It came down about 4.32%. Again, during this time, everybody was excited, and look at what ended up happening. We topped out yet again and continued to drop. Recently, going back to September 28th, we topped out a little bit on the US dollar, as everybody was saying. We came down 4.54%, and look at where we are at now. We're seeing a little bit of a pump. We'll probably pump up to about $1.45 trillion here, 1.045 trillion, hit major resistance, and have a retest possibly of about $763 billion. And that's a wick down there. You know, it might come down as low as possibly like $850 billion because that's where a lot of support is. And we don't even need to go down all the way that low. It could be around like 850 billion, somewhere within this range. But you can see the pattern that is playing out here. And by the way, November, and I've said this time and time again on this channel, if you guys have been watching for a while, I said that November will most likely be our last and final low in crypto. And why do I say that? Well, let's go off of the time frames here. So going all the way back, and let me get rid of all of this. And in fact, let's go over here to let's go all the way back to 2017, 2018. So let's go off of this time frame here. We could technically go off of Bitcoin actually. So let me go to Bitcoin first, just because it would be easier to gauge on how long it's actually been. So let me go to the index here. There it is. So here is Bitcoin, and we have been looking at this for a while. I've always said November is when we will most likely see the final bottom for crypto painted in. Why do I say that? Well, going off of the last all-time high for Bitcoin, you can see that to the bottom, the official bottom on Bitcoin was about 365 days, one full year. Now, you could argue that this was our actual bottom, March of 2020, but it wasn't. That was not our low. Our low was December of 2018, and then we ran up and had this little bit of a topping point. This, you could technically argue, this was like the wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, wave 5. You could look at it however you want. I know a lot of people were actually arguing that this would be the wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, and wave 5. A lot of people say that we're actually going into the wave 5 now. We're going to have a blow off top, which, again, you can look at it however you want and gauge it however you want. All I want to really kind of talk to you guys about is the time frames that we have from the topping to the bottom. And here is 2013's high, for example. Going off of this was about 412 days. This would have been 600 and like some days, but this was not our actual bottom. This was basically a sell-off because we did do an a new high here, very similar to what we've seen over here. The only issue here is that we had a little bit of a new bottom formation here, so you could technically argue that it has been about like 600 some days back here. But again, it's however you want to gauge it. To me, I think that the 412 days is a perfect area to look at here for a bottoming point. We basically just had a major sell-off back here. There was not a lot liquidity in crypto during this time. And a lot of people have actually even gone off of like the 2013 high in April, but this is actually where the new all-time high was made. You could go all the way back to 2011 as well. 2011 was a very similar time frame in the market where you had roughly about like 165 days. You can see that the bear markets were actually lasting longer during this time. So this was like 168 days, 412. We had 365, so one full fiscal year. The average here, I would argue, is about like 365 to possibly like 400 and we'll say like 30. We are already at 356. 365 would put us at November 9th. If we were going to have like the full year bear market, and we would start to kind of have that upward swing. If you want to go a little bit longer, we'll say 380 to possibly even 400. We'll say 400 days exact, like 401 would be December. So I do think that we are nearing our full-on bottoming stage. A lot of people believe that the FOMC meeting could favor that and actually create a new all-time low, or not an all-time low, a new low, which would be our full-on bear market low. Or we might just have this sideways momentum. We might come down and retest 17.5K. I know that a lot of people have been calling for a lot lower, possibly down to like 16K, all the way down to 11K, 10K. Listen, to me, it doesn't really matter. All I know is that time frames, going off of the past patterns, going off of the past 4-year cycles, which everyone wants to follow, we should be nearing our full-on bear market bottom. And also, if you want to go off of the April all-time high here, or the April high, not the all-time high, the only reason why I say this is because most altcoins topped out during this time, so a lot of people think that this was our actual top. So far it has been about 566 days. If you want to go off of the 612 days from this time frame here, This is very interesting as well. So like this was 628 days. So 628 days. 628 days would take us into January. This would be January 1st. The very interesting thing about this is that if we go back to the FOMC meetings, the 13th and the 14th would be the most important FOMC meeting. This is where we do see the economic projections. This could also push Bitcoin down. We could trade sideways for a little bit of time, and then January 1st will be our official time frame to start pumping out. And the funny thing about that is it kind of takes me back to December of 2020, where we had that initial start to the pump. We could have the FOMC meeting. It could be the Fed pivot. And then all of a sudden, we have that upward swing very similar to 2020, well, I should say 2020 into 2021. But you guys do see the time frame back here where we started to actually pump out back in the fall time frame of 2020, which is very interesting. Or we could have something very similar to like 2019, where we have a mass sell-off during the fall time frame, and December is kind of still for the most part, and then we have like a major sell-off, which that would be like a black swan event. I wouldn't say that is more accurate, but to me, no matter how you look at it, sometime within the next couple of days, possibly even weeks, we will have our full-on bottom. Could crypto already be fully bottomed out? 100%. I'm just saying, prepare for anything. If Bitcoin does start to ride up and dominance continues to rise up on Bitcoin as well, and Bitcoin goes on a major tear, then altcoins will get hurt in the process. Remember, a lot of money comes out of altcoins to push Bitcoin even higher, which is what we've seen back in 2020 and 2021. We've seen it in the past and previous cycles as well. So we are definitely watching a few things around this FOMC meeting. I do think that this is very important to watch. I think that these dates are very important as well. So November 1st to the 2nd, aka today, December 13th to the 14th. And remember, these are a 2-day event where the second day is the most important. So November 2nd, today, is the huge day. So with all of that in mind, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe to notifications on if you guys want more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. As always, up to you all. Have a beautiful day, beautiful night, wherever you guys are on this beautiful world. This has been Nick. Peace out, guys.